Hi, and can you hear me? What? Just a moment, please. Hi, everyone. So this is Jyoti here. Welcome to Rest the Case. Today we are sitting for a very important panel discussion here. That is defending truth, the role of law in countering fake news and misinformation. So, as we all know, in today's world, misinformation and fake news are actually major threats to public trust. Also, this is a very serious threat to our democracy as well as the justice system. So, today we are sitting here with a distinguished panel of legal experts who will delve into how laws are evolving into combating these issues, ensuring accountability, and balancing freedom of speech. So, joining us today are Advocate Madhav Shankar. He's a very skilled lawyer with over 7 years of expertise in commercial law, intellectual property, banking disputes, and many more. Also, we have Advocate Akanksha Magan here with 14 years of experience in family law, consumer protection, and civil litigation. She practices with dedication and provides very personalized and top tier legal guidance. We also have here Advocate Vinayak Bhatia. He is an advocate specializing in criminal law, property disputes, arbitration. He's also very well known for his comprehensive legal strategies. We also do have here Advocate Syed Rafat. She's a dedicated lawyer and a social activist. She focuses majorly on criminal law, family matters, and civil writ petitions. So now we will start with the cases introductory video first of all. So let's view what rest the case has and how we have started this journey. Yeah. So now we will be discussing about this topic that we are sitting here with. I'll be putting up some conversational questions here, and I would like all of you to participate and help us understand these issues better. So, my first question would be how does the current legal framework in India address this issue of fake news and misinformation? So I would like all of you to give your thoughts here and help us understand better, like what exactly are we talking about here and how this is impacting our society. So please, Advocate Vinayak, would you like to add your comments here? Uh, Sorry, can you please tell us that whether you're able to hear us properly? Right. Okay, just give us a moment, please. So sorry, there was a technical issue at our end. So, like I was telling you that, can you please reframe your answer and come again once whatever we discussed earlier?
Right, right. The current legal framework in India regarding misinformation and fake news. So we right now like have certain criminal provisions. We have some civil remedies available, and there's some provision under IT Act that is available to us. Furthermore,
Right,
I would put like there's a Freedom of Press Act which is regulating the press media and all, like, but digital media is still lacking there. We have like certain laws regulating elections and like fake news among them.
right,
But right now what our legislation is missing is the concrete definition between fake news and misinformation. Like people are not able, like the when these things fake news or like misinformation, they may be generated by someone, but they are propagated, like they might have sometimes intent, their intent may be missing. So now with intent, when something is doing, like it would fall under criminal, but as as the implementation still lacks. So yes, I would say
okay. So what are your thoughts here, Advocate Madhav?
Right. Hi, everyone. Am I audible?
Yeah,
Right. So I totally agree with the advocate Vinayak Bhatia. What we have currently is rather a patchwork of remedies, both civil and criminal,
right,
rather than having a solid, coherent law on fake news. So if you look at section 192 and 195 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, which is just come into force, it talks about spreading fake news, or rather, it doesn't use the word fake news. It talks about incitement of violence, right? Or it talks about inciting someone to take action that harms the safety, the security of India, and sovereignty of India, words like that. So,
right,
first of all, the term fake news itself isn't defined in any single legislation. Second, there's no consensus on what this term fake news actually means. As Advocate Bhatia already pointed out, there sometimes may be intention to spread misinformation, right? And sometimes this spread of misinformation may be unintentional. For example, it is often seen that when we have WhatsApp forwards, a lot of information in these WhatsApp forwards is not verified, right? Which is also called WhatsApp University, right? Or
right,
WhatsApp spam, right? So there are all of these different terms. There is no single piece of legislation, there is no single regulation that defines it.
right,
Although misinformation and the negative effects of misinformation are covered under separate different legislations. So again, what is required is for the parliament, for the Supreme Court, for the different high courts to really deliberate on a coherent and cohesive definition of fake news and misinformation and come up with a set of guidelines, right?
right.
Or come up with a sort of understanding that is common amongst all regulatory bodies, amongst different courts, parliament, etc.,
Yeah,
and then try to tackle the problem. Because right
right.
now we're in a situation where we don't even know how to define the problem,
Right,
right? So
right.
that's
So
my sort of
on
2 cents
that
on it.
note, Advocate Akansha, do you want to say or add anything on where Advocate Madhav just left?
No, I think both of them had completely cleared out what exactly we are lacking here? What is the role of the government, where the government is lacking? And since there is Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita Act, there are IT rules, IT Act is playing a very vigilant role here, but then the correct definition and the correct formation which is happening in our country, people are unaware of the repercussions of all these things, and WhatsApp is one of the main reason here. uh, Whatever people are spreading, people are unaware. There is a lack of literacy among people, to identify what is the mistake and what are they actually a fake news or not.
Right.
Right. So the government has to play a very important role here. All right, we have PIB to check all this, but then they also have to play a very major role, and has to be supported by the government here.
Right. So, Advocate Rafat, are your views the same as the others, or is there anything that you would like to add on, or say something that is not what they said already?
My views are similar to them, but I would like to add that technology, but the problem with fake news is it is entirely based on the political narrative or propaganda it is favoring. So if it favors the agenda of the majority, it will spread anyway. And
Right.
till the time it is identified as fake news, lax already gotten this or have considered it to be true.
Okay. So, on this note, I would like to ask, since we spoke about the laws and the government and a lot of things that are happening, I would like to ask you that are the existing laws sufficient? Like, do you feel that there needs to be any change, or do you think that the existing laws are sufficient enough to, deal with the situation?
Well, in my perspective, it is not enough because legal perspective of freedom of speech and freedom of the press is restrictive and not absolute.
Mm-hmm.
And
So what else can be done over there?
we need to really have some laws which needs to be there on and needs to be there and
Okay, so anyone who wants to add something to this question, Advocate Madhav, I can see that you want to speak over here. Yeah.
Yeah, so just a little addition to what Advocate 𝗖𝗍 said.
Yeah.
It's absolutely true that we need something. We need a strong, cohesive law that first of all defines what misinformation is, identifies it.
Right.
There is a bit of this discussion in the new Digital India bill that's being tabled in front of the Parliament. There are certain sections of the Digital India bill that do talk about defining misinformation, right? Constituting a body that will act as a board to oversee various technology platforms that can
Right.
be used to spread misinformation, right?
Right.
Now, of course, we have the OTT regulations that regulate your Netflix, that regulate your Hotstar and what have you.
Right.
However, there is a lack of governance when it
Right.
comes to tech platforms, especially platforms like your Meta, WhatsApp, Instagram, all of these different platforms where the spread of fake news, as Advocate 𝗖𝗍 pointed out, once the misinformation has been spread, it's already too late to contain it, right? So the harm has already taken place, right? So there is Digital India bill that's coming up. However, there is also a criticism of the provisions of the Digital India bill where it does not address the fundamental problem with informational harms, right? Which is that once the information is already spread, the harm is already done, right? So that is actually a problem that most of the jurisdictions have been struggling with. If you look at the the GDPR, if you look at the Digital Privacy Act of the EU, right? All of these legislations and regulations have essentially struggled till now, right? And of course, I'm someone who believes in the use of technology to tackle modern problems.
Right.
I feel that there is some scope in use of artificial intelligence in tackling this problem of misinformation, right?
Right.
Because pre-publication censorship is not possible like we
Right.
do in OTT. So that is perhaps a direction in which the government, the parliament, the courts could think about.
Yeah, so we are also getting some questions. I'll just come to that part later. Before that, I just want to ask you one more thing: that what are the key challenges you think that we are facing in defining and regulating the entire fake news from a legal perspective, mostly? Like from our perspective, what are the challenges that we are facing, and how can we actually deal with these challenges?
So one of the foremost challenge, of course, is the political definition of misinformation and fake news, right?
Right.
Of course, everything in the realm of information and law is political. If someone says that it's not political, they are perhaps hiding the truth or they don't want to acknowledge the truth.
Right.
So the first thing that has to be done is to create a body. Of course, it's again impossible to create a body that is immune from political influences, but a body that can perhaps counterbalance political
Right.
influences and then perhaps can define and
Hmm.
regulate what misinformation is. So I think this structural problem, this legal structure, is one of the most fundamental problems because it strikes at the core issue of
Hmm.
the political angle, right? Or the political perspective of what misinformation is and whether it should be controlled or not, right? The other perspective, the other major challenge is free speech, right? Uh, we've had the decision of 𝗧𝗪𝗃𝗀 versus Union of India, where the Supreme Court has said that misinformation, or rather, restriction on free speech, right, has to be reasonable. It cannot be unreasonable. We have, Article 21, Article 19. There is a catena of Supreme Court decisions that talk about it. So I think the second major legal problem is balancing free speech.
Right. So here I would like to ask Advocate Akanksha that can you perhaps elaborate this a little bit more? Like he said a lot about
Yeah.
political influences on our free speech, or how we can form a body which can probably help us to get a counterbalance system in managing the public views, opinions, or how this can be redirected towards or can have a positive influence. So, can you also highlight a few things from a legal perspective, being an advocate? Can you just tell us that how this can be done efficiently, or what else can be done over here?
I think I completely agree with what Advocate Madhav has stated. The two important points which are very much necessary to strengthening this our legal system actually. The
Right.
another point which I would like to highlight here is that we need to promote our media literacy also, right? We should have a responsible journalism. This is also very much mandatory that people should be educated about what fake news are. People should be aware, and by journalism, by responsible journalism, I also mean that the journalist should be responsible and take this on take this carefully, that any kind of fake news should not be spread, and
Hmm.
take this responsibility on them as well.
Right. So here, can you just help me with maybe some examples of like how exactly fake news have circulated in the past, or what influence they have had over people, basically people of India or the world?
Samita, I would
Uh,
like to add here
yeah, please.
that special investigative teams are needed that is equipped with knowledge and technology to enhance the conviction rate, as
Right.
well as immediate arrest and speedy trial should be there to curb this situation.
Great. So, is there like I was telling, we want our audience to know about some examples of fake news that have in past been circulated and which has actually caused chaos or some kind of disruptions amongst people, or they were influenced by it. So, if there is anything as such, like we saw one during the COVID, right? So widespread of vacancies and all of those things led to a lot of chaos and commotion. So anything as such that you would like to highlight that had caused a really big impact on people of India?
I would like to add about 𝗏𝗃𝗧𝗃, the controversy regarding his caste and all.
Right.
This is one thing that is spreading ahead. And as you said, the best example of this is the COVID.
Right.
The first wave in COVID, when right wingers started spreading the news against Muslims, stating that it is us who are spreading that,
Right.
spreading COVID. And during that time, videos of Pakistan, Bangladesh, and many other old videos were altered and was posted on social media, which created a chaos and inflicted in killings. And we can see that effect that today also, if any one of us knows that there was a lynching in Haryana of a Hindu boy, stating that just because it was considered that he's carrying beef and he's a Muslim. So that is how that this is it is influencing and public opinion all. 𝗏𝗃𝗧𝗃 is also claimed to be Shrivastava or Yadav, but he is a Valmiki.
Okay. So you're saying that this is all causing disruptions and leading to larger issues in the country, right?
Yeah, these two are the main, like I would say these two are the examples of fake news that is like influence as of now and is at peak and is at like in discussion with people also.
So anyone else, anything that anyone else would like to add?
How can we forget the CNRC and the farmers' protest that happened in Delhi?
Right.
Like I believe like we all are from Delhi and like we have seen things how things were very closely.
Right.
And there were like certain videos which surfaced by independent like media people. They were not circulated. They were like verified news. Where like like certain misinformation was spread among the like cause of why the CA protest was happening. Now the misinformation which was spread actually there was that the camps would be created where like Muslims people who have migrated from other countries or who do not have any like hard documents would be like taken off to asylum and they would be mistreated over there. So these were like certain fake news, like misinformation, which was fed to the like illiterate, less educated part of Muslim community. Now I would say like the modern education must reach there. Like they should be having access to, they should be having like digital literacy, like Miss Magoon like said earlier. Now all these things among among the farmer protest, the bills. So if like misinformation was being created that the bills which are made, they would harm those people, like those small farmers.
Right.
Rather they were like harmful for the farmers who were like having a higher position or a higher hierarchy, I would say, in that like market in Punjab market or these overall areas. Now these big
So
farmers they generally like put small farmers over there and their produce is taken by them at a very small or nominal rate. Generally, what happens is so now if these intermediaries were removed, so now the market would be open for the small farmers, but at the same time it would cause a loss to the like rich ones. So if anyone would have seen closely, because I was there, like I had seen it. Now over there, like the fresh new tractors were bought, which were like going to that rally, and even not even the number plate was there, not even like the paint was even new. So how can like a small farmer who needs to like feed himself daily can come over there and protest?
right, right. I think we all have seen this coming up on various platforms, the same point that you have highlighted. So, what exactly are the legal measures or legal help that can be availed by any individual or organization who are falsely targeted by these fake news or fake information spread about them? So, what can they do in terms of legal help or legal, aid? What can they get there?
Right now, like we recognize criminal liabilities, injunctions, and certain complaints in the IT Act, but the principle of personal injury is still foreign in India.
Right.
So courts and judiciary like should intervene and should entertain such cases and promote them. Like even like such cases, if rejected by a district court, should be at least taken to High Court so that it could make some news or like at least be taken to Supreme Court in like some way or the other, just for
Right.
the proper recognition.
Right. So, anything else that anyone wants to add to what Advocate Vinayak has said?
Yeah, I would like to add that firstly, as soon as we come across any such news, we should copy the link and spread across our contacts to report it.
Okay.
Secondly, immediately we should lodge an online police complaint, then submit a physical copy of the same with cyber cell and CC it to the deputy commissioner as well as commissioner of police.
Okay.
Thirdly, we can absolutely rely on our investigative units, as I mentioned earlier as well, that special investigative teams are required
Hmm.
to to enhance the conviction rate of such news and everything. Fourthly, as soon as we have an authentic information, again write a statement to the concerned cyber cell and police station and hand it over to the investigation officer.
Hmm.
Fifthly, send defamation notices to all the platforms, news channels, individuals involved, claiming a hefty amount to create psychological pressure and fear.
Right. I think you have stated it wonderfully, and I think people should actually go by what you have said. But mostly when we are in that situation, since there is less legal knowledge about these issues, and that is the whole reason why we are doing this session today, people mostly don't know what they can do or what they should do in these situations. So hopefully, after this, maybe people will be enlightened in that would also follow these steps maybe so that they can get their rightful justice when something is done against them in these aspects. So coming to this part, I would like to also understand that do you also feel that the penalties or the punishments for spreading these misinformations in India is adequate enough, or they need to be stricter, or is there a different approach to handle these kind of issues?
The laws need to be stricter in such cases, and legal enforcement bodies are not acting it to worthiness and are mostly biased towards supporting the narratives. But yes, Satyamev Jayate is there, and we still believe into it. And there should be laws. We like not just me, and there are other advocates who would support it. Ki there should be strict laws to curb this situation.
Okay. So on this note, what else do all of you think? Like, I would like all of you to add something here where people can understand that this is a serious crime and this cannot continue further. So what do you want to add here?
Right. If I may go,
Yeah.
if I may put in my 2 cents.
Yeah, please.
So one thing it just popped into my head. So in India, we have criminal law and civil law, right? So the problem in India actually is that our jurisprudence of damages under civil law is not yet developed to the extent that it is developed in other countries, right? So for example, Indian courts are really reluctant in giving exemplary damages. What rather happens in India is a sort of compensation, right? So suppose you have defamation, you filed a defamation suit, you filed a criminal complaint for defamation, right? So what will happen in that, or you filed a criminal complaint for spreading misinformation under 195, 192 BNS. What will happen in that case is that the criminal process will go on, and as per the criminal process, the police will file the charge sheet, the court will pass an order against that person, and that person will be punished, right?
Right.
However, for the victims of the crime, the jurisprudence for damages is in a very, I would say, evolutionary stage in India, in the sense that if you look at other jurisdictions, especially if you look at the US, right, or UK, which is a closer, more similar jurisdiction to India, the jurisprudence of damages is quite different. And rather, for a victim of defamation or for a victim of a crime of misinformation, it is the damages, right? The restitutive damages or the exemplary damages which make more sense. Because at the end of the day, sure, there is an emotional element to everything. You want the person to be punished. You want the society to run well. However, the reputational damage and the damage suffered by the victim of that misinformation or the person who has suffered from that fake news is, number one, really slow to get. Why? Because of course, if you proceed under a civil process, it will take you a lot of time, right? Second, the understanding of damages itself needs to evolve, right?
Right.
Civil courts need to evolve it. Now, one example we have seen, I can draw a parallel to the Commercial Courts Act, right? So when we talk about Commercial Courts Act, when we talk about injunction for trademark violation, right, or any injunction in a commercial suit, the Commercial Courts Act has put a limit of 2 years on disposal of any given commercial suit, right? So perhaps I think that is something that could be borrowed by the parliament, right? In the sense that you can have a legislation that treats harms caused by misinformation, or as we like to call them, informational harms, as a distinct category of civil wrong. And by looking at that distinct category of civil wrong, you could come up with a different type of damages, or perhaps something like exemplary damages that would, at the end of the day, benefit the victim, right? And also, when the damages are being paid by the person who has spread the misinformation in the first place, could act as a deterrent,
right,
in the society on spreading those, spreading the fake news, spreading the misinformation in the first place. So that's
yeah.
my, sort of understanding.
Absolutely correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
very nicely explained actually. I hope this, like I said earlier, it enlightens people more about these things, and they also take this, I would say, take this to themselves to report these kind of news and all of these things, and follow the steps that was earlier mentioned by Advocate Rafat and you also. So now we will be talking about some questions that are coming to us from our audience. So I would just showcase it, and then we can probably discuss on it so that we answer whatever they want to know about. Like the first thing would be, how can lawyers help in fighting against the fake news and misinformation spread? So they want to know what lawyers are going to do for them, and how you people are going to stand by them in these times.
Right. So the first thing that, as a lawyer, that can be done is, number one, you do a little bit of investigation at your own end, find out who the person is who has spread the information, what is the
Right.
harm that has been caused to you. And the
Right.
first step that lawyers take, in a usual course, in a usual circumstance, is send out the legal notice, right? And the purpose of the legal notice is to inform the other party that your actions are harming me, right? It is because of your actions that I'm having to go through a lot of trouble, right? And the notice, the legal notice that is sent by lawyers, is usually in a cease and desist format. So the lawyer will usually ask the other party to, number one, stop spreading the misinformation that is harming the other party, right? And if the information is not stopped, then proceed with both civil as well as criminal action against the party who has been spreading that misinformation. Now, obviously, one of the major problems we face as lawyers in this is to identify the party who is spreading the misinformation. So if the
Right.
party is easily identifiable, right, a lawyer can be a great tool, right?
Yeah.
A lawyer can be a great resource to help you counter that misinformation.
Right.
However, the most important part is to first identify the correct party, right, to whom this legal notice has to be sent, to whom, against whom this legal action has to be initiated, right? And also, as lawyers, again, you can proceed with the, criminal or civil remedies as per the requirements of the case, right? And as
Right.
per the requirements of the person who has suffered the harm.
Right. So you're saying that identifying the party is one step closer to the remedy, basically, right? And that is something that a lawyer can help with.
I would like to add here with this that one should draft complaints, assist with police, and as well as write detailed statements. Also, one can do that ki conduct proper, well-read research, and trials should be there. Secondly, we can have judgments by higher courts to secure punishment in such cases if we are able to find who the actual culprit is behind this false news or misinformation spreading all over the social media or anywhere on the technological platform.
Right. So coming to speak about social media, we have another question as in how social media platforms are responsible for spreading false news amongst everyone. So for that, what can be your answer to this?
So, like our social media platforms, they do have a political biasness.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
if like you would use a you buy a new mobile phone, you download the YouTube app, you have not signed in. You'll find some videos which are which are having a propaganda. I won't say left or right, but that can be seen by everyone. But
Right.
however, However, these platforms, they always have an algorithm which circulates or promotes a video which has been liked by people, commented by people, or shared by people in a certain manner. Like there's a pattern which this algorithm picks, and then the news just becomes viral, or the post becomes just viral. Now in India, we do not have any regulation which is covering this algorithm, or where we are putting transparency among these algorithms. Whereas EU recently in 2022 they passed certain new laws where they have covered, they have put transparency in this algorithm. They are making those social media platforms more accountable as compared to India, which where we are lacking. Though we have certain regulations which are like intermediaries, we have put certain I would say obligations on the intermediaries which are not very transparent. There's a grievance officer. You will email that grievance officer and your complaint and all regarding the misinformation and all. So whether that in misinformation would be considered as a misinformation by that person would depend upon his personal views over there. So you cannot challenge that decision because you won't be informed what was the reasoning behind that not considering your request. So
Right.
transparency, lack of transparency is there, among these platforms, which needs to be covered by regulation, and Parliament should take note of that.
Definitely, definitely. Here we have another question, that is, how does India approach fake news compared to other countries? Like we all know, there are very severe laws in some of the countries in the world about fake news or anything that is coming on social media which is not true or data misinterpreted. So here, our audience wants to understand that how does India approach fake news compared to any other country?
So I would like to approach this question
Yeah.
with a little bit of skepticism about the legal system of other countries as well.
Okay.
I feel that India, uh, if you compare it to, say, for example, the United States, right? The freedom of speech standards in the United States are quite a bit more liberal than India, right? So you can get away with a lot in the US compared to, say, UK, for example, right? And you could perhaps get away with a lot more in India compared to the UK. So, number one, I would like to sort of say that how a country deals with fake news or misinformation directly correlates to the kind of values that country sort of ascribes to the right of freedom of speech, right? Of course that depends on the social context of that particular country.
Right.
Coming to the regulatory aspect, of course, there are European countries. There is the EU bloc that has the AI Act, as Advocate Bhatia pointed out. So, in most of the Western countries, if you look at the regulatory mechanism, there is a lot more accountability imposed not on the users of the social media, rather on the social media platforms themselves,
Right.
on how responsible they are supposed to be while using these AI filters, while using these platform features to filter out misinformation, how quickly they respond to a reported post on social media, all of that, right?
Right. So
So
you're saying
yeah.
India should approach it in the same way. Like we should be more understanding of the features in different platforms, and we should try to get knowledge and then try to use it. Are you saying that? Like you're getting there?
Right,
Yeah,
precisely. So there
I
is
would
there is
like to add
certainly,
over here
yeah.
Yeah,
that
please.
as I've already stated, that literacy is very much important.
Right.
While educating people is very much important. So if you'll educate the people in a certain manner, they'll be more responsible to share something on a social media, right?
Right.
So that responsibility is not there in India. People are unaware of the repercussion they are going to have, and because the laws are not that strict, they are posting anything or everything. If we compare it with the other countries, their laws are more strict, and they are even more responsible while posting anything on social media, as well as they are in Germany, the students are being taught in the school how responsible you have to be and how responsible you have to handle social media, right?
Right.
Which is not in India.
Right. So you're saying our schools are also responsible for, handling this situation, or how we can educate our children more right from the beginning, like how they should deal with all of
Yeah,
these things and what
yeah,
can be done in those aspects. Even as adults, we should be knowing more
of course.
about
I mean,
how.
the education plays a very, very much important role here.
Right,
Uh,
right.
People are now uh, almost everybody is on these platforms, and half of the population is unaware what they are doing on these platforms.
Right, right. So, on that note, what else can be added over here? Like, is there anything else that you would also like to add apart from education? Any one of you?
I would say that immediate arrest and speedy trial is needed. And also, I would like to say that the spine of media is important, being it is the fourth pillar of our democracy. So, as we said earlier, also that media plays an important role. But in today's media, we see that anyone comes out and they bark in wild without having any say or without having any knowledge. So that is something where media is lacking, and strict action needs to be taken, and there should be strict laws to regulate such media and news, misinformation news that are being played. And if we see, there are many news channels debates also, that is just like ridiculous. If we see, it has
Mhm.
no sense, and they just keep on telling us that, yeah, they spread hatred that is nothing more than that.
Right. So, on that note, I think we all have added quite a set of valuable information for our audience to understand what this issue is and how we can counter it. Now, I would like to thank all our panelists for sharing their insights on the legal challenges that we are facing today surrounding fake news, misinformation, or not being educated enough about knowing how to differentiate between a fake news and a news that is actually true. Also about our media platforms and all of this. This has been very insightful, and obviously it's very clear that while current laws offer some kind of protection, but there is a need for more targeted reforms and laws. So balancing the fight against misinformation with protecting free speech is obviously very crucial, like we discussed about free speech in our country and other countries and how everything is happening around the world today. So obviously the role of legal professionals and tech platforms here is very vital. And as we move forward today, legal reforms, technology, and public awareness will always be a key in tackling misinformation and defending truth in this era of technology, basically. So I would sincerely like to thank all of you for taking out your time and adding these valuable insights over here.
Samita,
So thank you very much.
Samita, before ending, I would like to add one thing, that is a legal reform which is needed, that a special act absolutely focused and dedicated to the establishing guidelines for investigation, trial, and punishment, and enhanced conviction rate is needed. That is very much important, and it is a legal reform which is required at earliest to curb these situations and misinformation on internet.
I'm sure with young minds and experienced people in our legal industry and everything going on in the right direction, these things will definitely come up, because today we are living in this era where technology. So obviously that will happen, and I hope that you also play a key role in making that happen soon. So thank you again for all of you joining us today,
Thank you.
and
Thank you.
thank you for sharing your valuable thoughts, insights, and how things can be changed, done in our country, and how probably we can add more to our society. So I would like to end our discussion here, and see you on the other side. Thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.